All right, welcome everybody. It is David Thomas. I got Mr. J. Woolwan with me as always, and we are here to shoot your Tuesday weekly dose of motivation, inspiration, and education. So if you've watched these videos on the regular basis, then you know what I'm going to say next. A lot of times we'll talk about trading mindset, which obviously most of you are in this group for some sort of trading or you know us through trading. But a lot of times we talk about personal development, and you'll find that that bleeds into every area of your life, including trading. So today we're talking about actually a really important topic, and it's seeing the bigger picture. It's the more that I reflect on seeing the bigger picture, I realize how crucial it is to step back and to look at that bigger view, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, or just my life in general. It's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, monotonous things, the day-to-day struggles, the day-to-day activities and obligations, and reacting to every little maybe setback as if it's the end of the world. You know, when you widen your perspective, you start to see those small, frustrating moments are just they're really just tiny pieces in a much larger puzzle. I mean, think about it when you're looking at a single puzzle piece, right? It feels meaningless. It could be it could be a random shade or blue or green, whatever, right? But when you put it into the full picture, everything makes sense. It's like having that box top. And that's how life is. The challenges, the delays, even the failures, they're just individual pieces. So when you take a step back and you see how they fit into your growth, your goals, or God's plan for you, they have a whole new meaning.
Is a totally unrelated. Well, it's kind of related, but have
Right?
you ever seen the movie The Accountant?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember when he puts together the puzzle, and then
Right.
when he pull the camera back, it's he did it upside down, so he's just looking at the gray side. It made me think of that.
Crazy.
Anyway, I totally agree with you. I think what you're describing is like it's one of the biggest reasons why people struggle with discouragement, right? They're like zoomed in on a moment, right? And it's like staring at a raindrop, right? And forgetting it's part of a storm, right? And the storm is actually watering the fields, right? And feeding animals and those things. It's like you've heard that saying, like the forest through the trees, right? Or
Mhm.
stepping over pennies to or stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, right? It's all like that same kind of concept. So I mean, people like this is an example, right? Like you get laid off from a job and it feels like it's the end of the world, right? But if you kind of take a step back, you realize it's actually, might be the push that you needed to finally get you to pursue that business idea that you've been, thinking about for years. I mean, like look at like COVID, right?
Mhm.
The people that had time and all of a sudden they had those checks that they're sending. So many people started businesses and stuff, right? When at the beginning it seemed like, a tragedy. I mean, it was a tragedy. People lost their lives, but you get the point. Is like it's just a perspective, right? And or maybe you lose a relationship, right? And it's devastating, right? But in hindsight, it leads you down the path of growth, right? You grow in a way that you might not have done otherwise, right? And I found that if you kind of focus too much on the immediate circumstances, that you miss the long term transformation or the big picture, right? That's really happening. The real growth is almost always the bigger picture, not that one little thing.
Exactly. What's funny is the bigger picture often makes those hard times feel worthwhile. If you think about some of the toughest seasons that you've been through, I think about some of the toughest seasons I've been through in my life, the moments when I felt like nothing was working out, right? Everything was going wrong. But when I look back, I can see how those times actually shaped me and set me up for, where I am today. They were building resilience, forcing me to develop skills and even leading me into opportunities I probably would have, like you just said, probably would have never pursued if everything had just gone smoothly, right? And it's like trading. You don't see these typically get rich quick overnight results, right? With trading, the market fluctuates. Sometimes it dips, sometimes it goes up. But if you zoom out over the years and you apply the edge and obviously those things, use proper risk management, you can potentially see that steady growth. But that's how it is with life. When you keep your eyes on that larger narrative, you're not looking for those overnight success stories. You're less rattled by the day-to-day ups and downs. It gives you that perspective. And that perspective, it helps you have patience and have peace during those times.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I think that having that long-term perspective also makes you more grateful, right? And when you're constantly fixated on what's wrong, right, you miss the good that's unfolding, right, in the background, that big picture, right? And when you learn to take a step back, you start to kind of recognize all the little hidden blessings, right? All the doors that were closed to protect you from this or that, right? Those detours, they actually lead you somewhere better, right? And I've had situations where I was super frustrated, right, at the time, right, or frustrated with the timing of how things were unfolding, right, only to realize later that that delay actually saved me from making a bad decision, right. I, I I won't explain what I was just thinking to say out loud, but it's happened a bunch, right? Things happen and you're frustrated, and then turns out you're like, oh man, I'm glad that happened because I would have wasted a bunch of money or wasted a bunch of time, whatever it is, right? And seeing that bigger picture keeps you grounded, right? It helps you trust the process and recognize that sometimes what feels like a setback is actually setting you up for something better. What's that saying? Like, Brandon Boyd always says it. Like,
It's not a setback, but a set up, I think is what he says, right?
I was trying to think of it too.
Or
I
it's
don't think
not, yeah,
quite it, but it's something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
And anyway, that's why I think it's so important to like remind yourself that you're playing the long game, right? All of this, everything we're doing is the long game, right? Stop trying to play the short game.
yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about handling those setbacks. It's about making wiser decisions. Because typically if you're looking at, what's right in front of you, right? It's easy to make those impulsive choices and you react. It's that knee-jerk reaction. But instead of strategizing, which is what you should be doing, and looking at that bigger picture, you can become more intentional when you look at the broader spectrum. You start asking, how does this decision, how does it affect me in 5, 10 years down the road? Right. Instead of just, how does this feel right now? I actually watched somebody that I like online, Charlie Kirk. He was literally just gave a talk on this and about what separates a man from a boy is the ability to give up or say no to the pleasures that, something that gives you pleasure right now for something that's going to give you more success, more growth, more health, whatever the topic is down the road, right? And it's so true. So seeing the bigger picture of things instead of what feels good right now, what's my knee-jerk reaction, that's going to make a huge difference. It's going to more patience in your relationships, right? In your marriages, with your children, more resilience in reaching your goals because you're like, man, same with trading, right? I'm not there today, but you're thinking long term. I know I'm not going to get there today. I'm not going to get there tomorrow, but I'm planting this seed. I'm planting this tree now. You're not planting it for tomorrow. You're planting it for the decades to come, right? Keep that bigger picture in mind, and that will give you wisdom to invest in things that take time to grow. But those things are going to be well worth it, and they're going to create something that lasts, potentially for generations. So instead of you're constantly chasing those quick fixes.
It reminds me of, again, kind of a tangent, but it reminds me of like that study they did on little kids where like they're like, we'll give you an Oreo, or if you wait, you can have 3 Oreos in an hour. And they actually did that. And then like 10 or 20 years later, they went and revisited those kids and like just took a glimpse of them. And all the kids that were able to delay gratification were better in a better place in life, right? They had achieved more, they were more successful. It's kind of all this what we're talking about, right? When you understand that life is a journey, right? And not just a series of isolated events, right? You've heard that saying like success is a journey, right? It's not a destination, right? It's the same thing with life, right? Stop being so anxious about every little delay or detour and realize that you're not behind, right? You're just on a different part of the path, right? And that perspective will keep you grounded, right? It gives you patience with yourself and with other people, right? Stop rushing and start trusting, right? Whether it's in business or your personal growth or in your faith, seeing the bigger picture reminds you that today is just a chapter, right? It's not the whole book, right? It's not the whole story. And with that kind of mindset, it brings you a lot more peace and a lot less stress.
Yeah, very true. So hopefully you guys and ladies and gentlemen that are watching this, you will see the value in this, see the wisdom in this, and apply it to your lives because it's such an important topic. It really is. So I hope you got value out of it. We appreciate you watching as always. God bless, and we will see you back at the end of the week for the weekly market recap. Take care. Bye.
See you guys.